Maverick traders. Welcome out to your currency recap for January 6th as we kick off the new year. Hope you're having a great one thus far. We're going to go through major meaningful news in the markets. We're going to go through our currency baskets. We're going to weigh them, who's strong, who's weak, what are the best cryptocurrency or Forex trades, and we're going to do that now.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional Forex and crypto traders. Maverick Currencies is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional Forex and currency trader for Maverick, click the apply button in the video description. Let's break down what happened today.
So the way that we do that is really we're going to try to identify where there's strength and where there's weakness and match those up. So there's a couple of things in terms of the news. The Santa Claus rally has failed. That's the week after Christmas. That tends to lead to more of a bearish market environment, but tech bounced back today. It was pretty strong. So there's kind of some cross currents, almost arguing with each other. We'll see which one gives way. German CPI came out this morning a little bit hotter than expected, 0.4 versus the 0.3 expectation. Now, as we look at currencies, today was a full-on risk-on environment. Things like CAD and crypto doing well, and most importantly, the risk-off currencies, Japanese yen, US dollar getting hit sharply. When those are going down sharply, people are not fearful. There's not trepidation in the markets. So crypto bounced back. I mean, it was more, hey, let's take risk to start the new year. Let's see if we can get these markets really going to the upside. And that's possible. We're going to look at some charts here in a minute that show, breakouts loom. So Bitcoin was the leader. Bitcoin clearly has the most momentum. It's now back up over 102,000 for a Bitcoin. Certainly the strongest. We'll look at that chart as well. So if we look deeper into the market itself, we're a little bit more bullish than bearish, but we're really sideways. I mean, when you look at this chart, this is what I would call a descending triangle, and it's a bouncing ball effect. If you bounce the ball on a table, the first bounce is the largest, and each subsequent bounce is smaller until eventually it falls off the table, right? It eventually falls off and goes lower. So this is a bearish pattern if we go back to this low and break down. But if we break out on the top side, if we break above this downtrend line here, and I'll just draw a big thick line, if we break out on this side, well, then it's a risk-on environment. And actually, that's the door we're knocking on right now. Now, it certainly kind of tested up into that range and then backed off today. But what are you going to do tomorrow if we were to surge through? And oh, by the way, we still had a positive day, even though it couldn't hold all of the gains. We're still up 0.5%. So the S&P equities look like they could go either way. We're in a trading range. The next breakout will be impactful. If we look at economic reports, we've got CPI out of, this is something that Swiss National Bank will be watching. It's really CPI is not a concern to them, but CPI numbers out of Australia, again, something that the RBA will be watching. There, you've got more of a concern. I mean, when you're printing negative inflation, you're in a deflationary environment. Well, perhaps they actually want to see a pickup, but Australia doesn't want to see that. So that one's more impactful than watching, trying to play the Swiss franc on this news. We've got FOMC meeting minutes. And then I would say the bigger event is Friday. Friday we get non-farm payrolls, and the jobs market has started to turn a little more negative. We've peaked up above 4%. We were down in the 3% unemployment range a year or so ago. So there are some things that are weakening, but not massively in that direction. On the currency side, as we analyze things, this is where I look at the velocity and where there is a lack of velocity and where there's some substantial velocity. So we kind of draw a line here and here and say anything inside of that really doesn't have a lot of momentum. Outside of that, on the bullish side, of course, is crypto, with Bitcoin being strongest. And outside of this, on the weaker side, is the Japanese yen. And so, shorting the yen, it certainly has the most momentum to the downside. What would you pick against it on the long side? Well, I'm going to look at CAD, but I realize CAD is stuck in a range. It's not really moving anywhere right now, but that could change, and we'll talk about why. So here's the way that I would look at possible trades. First, we'll look at the Japanese yen. Clearly, the weaker component of currencies. You can see we're on a sell signal, clear downward slope, clear lower levels, clear downward sloping on the RSI. I mean, every characteristic of something that looks like it wants to continue to trade lower. A little bit of a basing pattern here, but we're seemingly moving outside of that to the downside. So Japanese yen is one that we could continue to look for maybe some further weakness. I said maybe the CAD is a candidate to play to the upside. So I mean, we're really kind of sideways on the moving average. The RSI is picking up a little bit. We're still on a sell signal, so it's not a raging buy, but you've got this big long base here. And we know that price action is the king. It is what's truly happening. And then these indicators will give measurements of volatility and velocity. If this thing breaks sharply higher here, this is going to flip into a buy. That's going to pull the moving average up, and the RSI is already in pretty good shape here, trending higher. You'd start to see some real good opportunity. And oh, by the way, it would be breaking resistance and breaking out of the top end of that range. So that would be what I would be looking for, is a break higher in CAD, and we could look at it on the long side. Bitcoin, it's just a buy here. Look at the surge once we broke 100K. I talked about this in weeks past. When you first go up to a big psychological level, don't expect a huge surge through. When oil first got to 100 a barrel, it backed off. When gold first got to $1,000 an ounce, it backed off. These things have a psychological effect. When Bitcoin first got to up near 100K, it's going to back away. It's going to try and go through it and fail and back off. And that's what it's been doing, right? Because people are profit taking against that key number. But now we've been messing with that number. We've had some failed breakouts. We've been around it long enough for people to take profits if they were going to do that at 100K. All of those profits have been taken. So where do we go from here? We've broken out again. And this is the one that has the ability to potentially really surge and really spike. Now, I don't know if it'll do it, but this is a much better breakout and a much better opportunity if you're playing momentum than the first time it came up to this level or tried to break out. Those are profit taking, signals if I've ever seen them, right? People, when that first got here, they wanted to take profits and lock in those gains. And it's sort of, sometimes we get asked, well, with technicals, are people selling at 100,000 because that's their target? Some of them are. Are people selling at 100,000 just because it's a psychological, like, oh, I'll sell when it gets up to that? Sure, some of them are. Are some of them selling because they expect other people to sell at that 100K? Yes, some of them are. And so, kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Enough people believe that others will sell at those levels, they're going to sell, and therefore they were all right that people were going to sell at those levels. But now we've had enough time. Look, Bitcoin's traded around this number for a long time now, so anyone that wanted to sell against that number, they've had the opportunity at this point. This is how we would stack them up on risk and say, okay, crypto is clearly the better area of the market right now. Japanese yen, the weaker. Things can change in a hurry, especially in the new year, but that's how it looks at this moment. Hope you enjoyed the currency recap. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next time.